Welcome back. This is Management Consulting 101, where I'll be sharing tips, tricks, strategies on how you can make your application stand out if you are thinking about transitioning into management consulting. This is more so beneficial for non-MBA candidates with an advanced degree. I have a PhD and I transitioned into management consulting, and so I'll be sharing most of these things through my own experiences. If you enjoy this kind of content, consider subscribing. I'll appreciate. So, I left aerospace mechanical engineering PhD and I went into management consulting. Was I 100% sure that I wanted to do management consulting or transition into consulting? Nope. I was around 75% sure. The other 30% was divided between industry research and staying in academia, like Professor Track. I had a lot of doubts. Am I selling out? Will I regret? Am I wasting my degree? Why did I do a PhD just to abandon it, quote unquote, and go into business or go into consulting? And we will unpack those doubts in another episode. But if you ever, just to pause here and say, I know if you are ambitious, if you are multi-passionated or curious individual, you will undoubtedly meet junctions in your life, in your career, where you have two competing paths. You are like, should I take this path or should I take this other path? And most of the time, it's not easy. And whenever you meet a junction like that, because I met that junction in 2021 and 2022, at the end of my PhD and my post-PhD research, and I was looking for something different, and consulting came into the picture. And I decided, you know what? Let me go into consulting. I was so conflicted. Like I'm telling you, part of me wanted to stay in academia and become a professor. Part of me wanted to go into industry, become a research engineer. Part of me just wanted something different. I was also running a startup at the same time. So anyway, I was just being pulled in million directions and I wasn't 100% sure which one to take. And I felt like if I take path A, I might regret. And as you know, we fear regrets. And I think we are always optimizing our choices so that we don't regret. And which is a good thing, but also can be a bad thing because then it might hinder us from exploring, and especially like uncertain paths that end up becoming so fulfilling. We abandon that just because we do not want to regret later in life. Anyway, if you ever find yourself at such a junction, I would want you to watch Steve Jobs' commencement speech of 2005-2006. And there is somewhere there in the video, every time I feel conflicted, I literally just open that video and I fast forward to the part where he's talking about following your intuition.
Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary.
And here are my 5 reasons why I followed my intuition and I transitioned into management consulting and I paused my engineering pathway. Number 1, midlife crisis. Yes, it had to be midlife crisis. I was calling it quarter life crisis, and then my friends were like, how old are you again? I was about to turn 31. So it was like, you know what, just call this midlife crisis because you are way beyond, way out of quarter life at that point. Anyway, whatever it is, quarter life or midlife, it was just a crisis. Have you ever found yourself questioning not only career choices, but also your personal stuff? I was just asking myself so many things. Until that point, I was career-wise, I had decided to stay in academia and become a professor. But then I was asking myself, is this what I want to do? Or is this what I'm doing because society expects me to do? Is there something else I'm curious about? And why am I not courageous enough to explore that curiosity? Even on a personal level, I was asking, are these the kind of friends or friendships that I want to cultivate in the coming years? Is this a romantic relationship that I want to be in? Is it fulfilling or should we just change? I was craving something. I feel like I just wanted to wash my house. Like I just felt like my house had been on an autopilot and it just needed renovations. And for some weird reasons, it happened on that night of my 31st birthday. And so anyway, I asked myself so many questions. I also just wanted a break. Since I entered academic institution from kindergarten, I had never taken a break. Unless you count the internships, which I do not count. They don't count as break really, because it was part of academic training. Or if you count the COVID break, unless you do that. Otherwise, I had never taken a break out of academic environment. Because from kindergarten, I went to primary school, I went to secondary school, and then undergrad, and then I went to graduate school. At the end of graduate school, I even extended. I think I was just safe. I was just feeling safe in an academic institution because it was my familiar territory. That was the only thing I knew up until that point. And so I completed my PhD and I signed up for a post-PhD. And at the end of post-PhD now, I think that just realizing that there wasn't any other qualifications to take, because literally I was at the apex of my academic career or academic training, let's call it that way. All of a sudden now it was the question of, do I continue and become a professor and stay in academic institution? But also part of me, I'm deeply entrepreneurial. The entrepreneurial itch wasn't being scratched because I was mostly just deep into engineering research. Anyway, I was just craving something just different. I was like, I'm relatively young in my professional career and the stakes are a little bit low. So why can't I be courageous and explore something different? Just something that I am intentionally deciding to do. Whether I regret it or not, it is my decision. And so that is what I did. And so I decided to take a career break after my postdoc, and I decided to transition into management consulting, a new environment. It was stretching me. It was new zone for me. I had been called an engineer, a researcher up until that point, and then it was just giving me a new title. It was just pushing me out of my comfort zone, and I think I just needed something. I just needed to be pushed out of my comfort zone to get out of the autopilot and live actively and explore the life that I intentionally chose. It was a hard reset. And so anyway, I decided, you know what? Let's go down this path. Do I regret it? That is another video for another day. Number 2, consulting presented a practical way into an MBA. Towards the end of my postdoc, I was exploring all the options that were available for me. And like I mentioned, I am super entrepreneurial and I wanted to do something towards business. I actually applied and I got selected into Forte MBA launch program. So if you are thinking of exploring MBA and you want funding and you want support, a program that helps you into an MBA and gets you some funding or guidance to funding your MBA, consider checking Forte MBA launch. So anyway, around that time, I had gotten into that program. I was actively preparing essays and MBA application materials when someone mentioned, what if you got paid to do your MBA? And I was like, what? Is that even possible? And then someone mentioned, most people go through consulting just to get a practical MBA at the job. Like you still get to learn strategy, finance, organizational behavior. You get to learn operations, all those things that you learn theoretically in an MBA class, but then now in real life, like real environment with nuances, with consequences, and you get paid as you do that. And that stopped me. And I was like, wait, let me actually explore this path. And that officially actually set me in the path to recruiting and getting into consulting. So for me, it was a practical MBA where I get an MBA-ish. It's not, you don't get it officially, but yeah, you learn those things that you learn in an MBA class and while still getting paid. Number 3, for me, I have come to really appreciate the power of connections and networking, especially the top 3 MBBs. They attract top talent, brilliant, diverse students or candidates from all over the globe. Their acceptance rate is crazy. I think it was something like 1%, like less than 1%. And so you can imagine the kind of talent in these companies. It feels like a university setup or something of the sort. And I think for me, who was very comfortable and familiar with kind of an organized environment with around brilliant people, I think I was craving that kind of a setup all over, where you work in teams, you kind of the way we used to do in uni, like group discussions, you help each other solve problems, you push each other, etc. And I just felt like this would be kind of that organized environment where, yes, you solve real business problems, but at the same time, you are interacting with these brilliant minds constantly surrounded with these colleagues who are super brilliant, diverse backgrounds, engineers, doctors, lawyers, startup founders, like people who've done amazing stuff. And can you imagine if you can make connections with as many of those people as possible? And so I went in knowing that is what I wanted intentionally, to build, like to cultivate, to literally build, to connect, to know who is this person on a personal level, career-wise, what are their ambitions, and just get connected. That made it attractive for me. Just felt like a uni all over again, but then like solving real problems and then getting paid for that. Number 4, talking about salary or talking about paid, I just wanted good payment. Let's be honest. So MBBs, most of these MBBs, I know they do differ based from one company to another, from experience, entry level, etc. But a consultant level will pay you around 200,000 before you talk about bonuses and all those other things. That is another topic for another day, and we can explore that in a masterclass. Talking about masterclass, by the way, if you would want to join an intimate group of people, 10 to 20 candidates who are exploring going this path, register your name in the link in the description box below. So that one was super practical for me. 100%. I was looking for an opportunity that would reimburse me decent amount, because I had and I still have a lot of financial responsibilities back home, as is many of my friends coming from my side of the world. We have a lot of responsibilities, and normally when you go to school, you are an investment. You are not going to school so that you do whatever the heck you want. It's literally like we are selling land, we are sacrificing so that you go to school, and then you come and change our lives. It's a contract. It might not be said, but that is like unwritten contract. So anyway, if you ask most of the people from my side of the world, we make a lot of sacrifices, working 2-3 jobs just so that you are comfortable, but also you are able to fulfill that social contract of helping your siblings or family members, improving your home, etc., school fees, medical bills, emergencies. So anyway, this was super practical for me. I was considering a job that would give me good salary to allow me good-ish life, but at the same time also fulfill all those a lot of financial obligations that I had. So a strong base salary was 100% a consideration that was on the table. Number 5, a peek into corporate leadership. While I was applying for research engineer, etc., there was some of these roles that looked attractive. Head of strategy, head of operations, things like those, roles like those. And I was just curious about those roles so much. The only thing is that when I was applying for those roles, they would be like, do you have any experience working in a business setup? Because pretty much you've been in academia all your life. And so part of being in consulting was for me to have a peek into this executive level corporate leadership. What does a CFO actually do? What does CSO, Chief Strategy Officer, what do they do on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly, on a annual basis in this industry, in this other industry? How do they make their decision? The C-suite people, the corporate leadership, how do they survive crisis? And consulting gives you that opportunity to be at the same level, on the same table pretty much, unless you are on a Zoom call. But most of the time, you're literally on the same table with these execs across industries. And then you ask yourself, do I see myself in their seat someday? A safe way to test whether you belong or you would want to be in that world. Kind of exposure before commitment. So those are 5 reasons why I decided to explore my curiosity and transitioned into management consulting. Again, was I 100% sure? Nope. Was it scary? Yes, very much. Was it aligned with my curiosities at the time? Absolutely. Let's answer your comments. If you have any comment, any question, any observation, drop it in the chat box in the comment section below. I'll be watching out for those questions, and then we'll be responding as we go. There is one question that I really wanted to address today, but while I was preparing my bullet points to talk about, I realized this is just an entire video on its own. And so maybe I'll just package it as an entire video in the coming episode. And the question that I loved so much and related to what we were talking about here today is, what aspects of a PhD or postdoc background actually matter for MBB and what doesn't? And I think this is a question that many advanced degree candidates want to know. What will I be bringing with me? Do I bury everything that I've learned and just come and start afresh? Or are there some things that I'll be bringing? So I'll do another video addressing that. But yes, they are, as you can already guess, there are a couple of things that you will transfer from your advanced degree into consulting. And then there are some things that will not matter. Let me just give two examples. One example that will matter is the structured problem solving and ambiguity or uncertain situations. If you've done a PhD, you know how stressful the thing is, how uncertain the thing is. Most of the time, you are testing, you are doing experiments, and you are traveling this path that no one knows where it leads. If people knew where it leads, then it would not be a PhD. It's an ambiguous, uncertain problem, and you have to figure it out. So that is super important, and that is that way of structuring problems, ambiguous, especially uncertain problems, into something that can be solved, and then you actually solve it. Very important in consulting setup. The main difference actually is just like maybe the time period, that during your PhD you have a long time to think about your problem, and in the consulting setup you literally have sometimes maybe 1 day or 1 week. One thing for sure that will not matter so much is how many papers you published, and like in academia where that might matter so much, these will not matter. So number of papers you published, number of citations, that will not matter. But anyway, to do service to these comments, I will do a very short video in the coming episode to address what aspect of an advanced degree will matter and most probably will come with you to consulting, and what aspects will not matter, so that helps you make a decision. Until the next episode, all the best. If you enjoy this kind of content, consider subscribing. I'll appreciate. Bye.